What if I told you the most unforgettable woman in a man's life is the one who says the least? Not the one who texts often or tries to impress, but the one who doesn't chase, explain, or beg for love. She simply exists, and somehow that's enough to haunt him. She's a Sigma female, not because she plays a part, but because she refuses to play at all. Her power is silence, stillness, the way she walks away with peace intact, leaving behind a presence he can't forget. This video isn't about attraction, it's about energy. The kind Stoic philosophy honors, calm presence rooted in self-worth. Marcus Aurelius said, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up." That's her, calm, grounded, unshakable. When a man meets her, it rattles him. Not because she's cold, but because she's complete. In a world addicted to validation, that kind of woman stays on his mind. Today we'll reveal what men secretly do when they fall for a Sigma woman. Why her silence echoes, why her presence lingers, why she's impossible to replace. If that resonates, like this video, subscribe and turn on the bell.
Number 1.
The echo effect. When a Sigma female leaves a room, she doesn't vanish, she lingers. Not through noise or drama, but through presence, through the way she made you feel, through the words she didn't say. Men find themselves replaying her sentences, her silences, her gaze, not because she tried to be remembered, but because she was fully there, undistracted, rooted, unrushed. This is the echo effect. It's not manipulation, it's not seduction, it's presence. And in a distracted world, presence is rare enough to feel like magic. Most people today are only half there. Their eyes are on you, but their minds are elsewhere, scrolling through thoughts, agendas, and projections. But the Sigma woman, she's different. She listens, not just with her ears, but with her soul. She speaks, not to impress, but to connect. She's not in a rush to be seen. She simply sees. That's why her memory stays with you. The Stoics understood this deeply, Seneca wrote. We suffer more in imagination than in reality, but the reverse is also true. We are healed more by a real, calm presence than by imagined perfection. The Sigma woman doesn't aim to be perfect. She aims to be real. Her inner world is in order. Her emotions don't leak. They radiate, and because of that, her energy doesn't demand, it invites. And that kind of presence, it leaves a mark. Presence is not performance. Presence is alignment. And alignment, according to Epictetus, is when your actions match your values and your mind stays within your own control. That's the Sigma woman. She walks into a space and doesn't try to dominate it. She inhabits it fully, honestly, with grace that doesn't need validation. And perhaps what makes her most unforgettable is that she asks for nothing. A real-world example? Maya Angelou. Her voice was soft, but her presence shook rooms. People didn't always remember her exact words, but they remembered how she made them feel. Her authenticity gave weight to everything she touched. She didn't force impact. She became it. This is what most men don't see coming. They chase aesthetics, but remember energy. They seek stimulation, but remember stillness. And when they cross paths with a woman who can sit in silence without needing to fill it, she echoes in their thoughts. Not because she tried to haunt them, but because they can't find that energy again in a world obsessed with performance. The echo effect isn't about haunting someone. It's about being so centered, so intentional, so honest in your presence that your energy speaks long after you've left. That's not just attraction, that's power. So no, she didn't try to leave a mark. But because she was fully herself, she did.
Number 2.
She's a frequency, not a face. Most people notice beauty with their eyes, but the kind of woman who becomes unforgettable isn't seen. She's felt. The Sigma female isn't captivating because of how she looks. It's how her presence alters the emotional climate of a room. She brings stillness where there was noise, clarity where there was confusion, calm where there was chaos. And that shift, it isn't cosmetic, it's energetic. She's not a face, she's a frequency. This is where most men misunderstand their own attraction. They think they miss her body, her style, her smile. But as time passes, they realize it was something deeper. They miss the way she moved through the world. They miss the inner stillness that softened their anxiety. They miss the peace she didn't speak about, but lived from. The Stoics spoke constantly about this inner state. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do." That's her, a woman who radiates because she has nothing to prove. Her value is not borrowed, her worth is not auctioned off to the highest bidder. It's settled, and that's why her energy is stable. She's not ruled by compliments. She's not shaken by absence. She's not inflated by attention. Her frequency doesn't spike with praise or crash with rejection. That's what makes her unforgettable. She's emotionally reliable in a world full of chaos, and that consistency becomes a safe haven for anyone near her. You don't remember her because she overwhelmed your senses. You remember her because she tuned your nervous system to a deeper calm. And once you felt that, loud no longer feels like love. Chaos no longer feels exciting. You crave the peace you didn't know you needed until you met her. And what's remarkable is that she doesn't create this frequency by force. It's a byproduct of her alignment. She has faced herself. She has confronted her shadows. She's disciplined her thoughts, refined her values, and learned how to return to her center. A real-world example? Oprah Winfrey. Her influence isn't built on shock or spectacle. It's built on presence. Her interviews leave people feeling seen. Her words carry weight because they come from a place of grounded intention. She's not trying to be anyone else. She's deeply rooted in who she is. That's frequency. And this is why men don't really move on from her. They date again. They chase again. But something feels off. The beauty is there. The chemistry is there. But the frequency is missing because what they're truly missing isn't a face. It's a field of energy that brought them back to themselves. And when a woman carries that kind of presence, she doesn't need to convince anyone to stay. Her frequency does all the talking.
Number 3.
Unbothered equals unforgettable. There's a quiet kind of power that most people underestimate until they feel it. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't compete, it simply watches and decides. That's the Sigma female's approach to relationships, attention, and life. She doesn't chase mixed signals. She doesn't get pulled into petty games or emotional chaos. She observes calmly, fully, and then acts based on what aligns with her peace. That's not detachment. That's discipline. In a world that rewards loud reactions, her silence is unsettling. In a culture trained to seek constant validation, her unbothered nature feels almost unnatural. But that's exactly why she becomes unforgettable. When others seek control by provoking emotions, she becomes powerful by not reacting. She doesn't need to win the moment. She wins by walking away without losing herself. The Stoics knew this well, Epictetus said. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. This is the essence of the Sigma woman's strength, her refusal to hand over the keys to her emotional world. She does not let someone else's chaos define her clarity. She doesn't need closure from others. She gives it to herself. She doesn't beg for consistency. She embodies it. Her self-respect is not situational. It's not conditional. It's built from years of showing up for herself, even when no one else did. Her unbothered nature doesn't come from ego. It comes from earned peace. She has likely known pain, disappointment, and betrayal. But instead of becoming hardened or bitter, she became rooted. She doesn't need to prove her worth through arguments or reactions. Her silence isn't empty. It's full of clarity. And this isn't indifference, it's intelligence. She knows exactly what drains her, what uplifts her, and what no longer deserves access to her inner space. She doesn't fear being misunderstood. She fears betraying herself. A modern example? Michelle Obama. Despite relentless scrutiny, racial bias, and constant pressure to explain or defend herself, she remains poised, composed, and emotionally sovereign. Her grace is not weakness, it's discipline. Her calm is not silence, it's control and that kind of self-mastery. It leaves a lasting impression that outrage never could. This is why unbothered equals unforgettable. Because in a world where so many are tossed around by emotion, a woman who chooses peace over performance becomes magnetic. She's not cold. She's clear. She's not arrogant. She's anchored. And when you meet someone like that, you don't forget her. Not because she demanded your attention, but because she never needed it in the first place. That's what stays. That's what echoes. Because while the world chases reactions, she protects her energy. And that choice, to stay rooted instead of reactive, is the rarest power of all.
Number 4.
Her silence screams self-respect. In a world where everyone is rushing to speak, to post, to explain themselves, silence feels dangerous. It feels like rejection, disconnection, even arrogance. But for the Sigma female, silence is none of those things. Her silence isn't a weapon, it's a return to herself. She doesn't stay quiet to punish, she stays quiet to protect. This is where most people misunderstand her. When a conversation turns manipulative, when someone tries to bait her into emotional chaos, when a situation no longer serves her peace, she doesn't react, she doesn't argue, she disappears. Not because she lacks words, but because she respects herself too much to waste them. The Stoics viewed silence not as passivity, but as power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." And that is her entire posture. She doesn't match disrespect. She doesn't mirror confusion. She removes herself from the equation and lets the silence speak the boundary. She knows that if someone can pull you out of character, they control you, and she refuses to give that power away. Her silence is not absence, it is presence redirected inward. And that silence, it's loud, not in sound, but in consequence. People begin to notice her absence, not just physically, but energetically. They feel the withdrawal of her peace, the lack of emotional availability, the clear space where drama used to be met with reaction, and it unsettles them. Because most people are addicted to being entertained by reactions. When the reaction is gone, so is the power they thought they had. Her silence is her sovereignty. It's how she reclaims her time, her clarity, her emotional safety. It's how she avoids being dragged into cycles of blame and shame. It's not that she's indifferent, it's that she chooses not to be consumed. And that choice, to protect her inner life rather than perform for outer approval, is rare. She's not trying to be mysterious. She's trying to be at peace. She's not punishing anyone. She's prioritizing herself. That's the distinction most people miss. Consider J.K. Rowling. When under extreme public criticism, she often chooses silence or minimal engagement. Whether one agrees with her or not, what's clear is this. She doesn't allow herself to be emotionally dictated by the masses. She steps back. She writes. She creates. She returns to center. That's not weakness, that's discipline. And discipline always outlasts noise. This is the paradox of the Sigma female. The less she speaks, the more clearly you hear her. The less she explains, the more deeply you feel her boundary. Her silence isn't cold. It's conscious. It's not punishment. It's protection. Because when a woman has nothing to prove and everything to protect, she doesn't raise her voice. She simply raises her standards.
Number 5.
She's water and fire at once. There's something magnetic about a woman who can hold opposites without contradiction. The Sigma female doesn't choose between softness and strength. She embodies both. Like water, she flows. Like fire, she burns. And it's that rare duality that makes her unforgettable. She can be deeply nurturing, yet completely unyielding. She can show empathy without losing her edge. She can hold space for others while still enforcing boundaries with quiet authority. This is not an act. It's not a performance. It's the result of emotional mastery earned through years of self-reflection, discipline, and solitude. The Stoics called this kind of balance apatheia, a state not of numbness, but of harmony within. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." The Sigma female has faced her own storms. She didn't escape the fire. She refined herself in it. And because of that, she no longer flinches when life tests her. Her warmth is healing, but her strength is protective. She will hold you when you're hurting, but she will not tolerate being disrespected. She will give second chances, but not infinite ones. Her love is real, but it's not naive. And when she walks away, it's not to teach a lesson. It's because she's learned one. And here's where most people get confused. They expect kindness to come with weakness or strength to come with coldness. But she brings both without contradiction. She doesn't yell to assert herself, and she doesn't collapse to please. Her words are measured, her gaze steady, her presence unmistakable. Oprah Winfrey once described Maya Angelou as a woman who could comfort the broken while confronting the powerful. That's the essence of this fire and water nature. One moment, she's lifting someone from despair. The next, she's holding the room accountable with a look, a pause, a truth. No screaming, no grand gestures, just presence. And what makes her even more rare is that she isn't trying to be balanced for others. She's doing it for herself. She's not here to be palatable. She's here to be whole. She has accepted her light and her darkness. Her softness doesn't make her easy to manipulate. Her firmness doesn't make her impossible to love. This is the paradox that lingers. She soothes and strengthens. She comforts and challenges. She's deeply human, but emotionally sovereign. Her duality isn't confusing once you understand her. It's clarifying. So when a man encounters this kind of woman, he remembers, not because she tried to impress him, but because she reminded him of what real alignment looks like. She's water and fire at once, and that combination doesn't beg to be seen. It simply can't be ignored. Number 6, she has options but isn't impressed. The Sigma female doesn't wait around hoping to be chosen. She already is, by herself, and this changes everything. She's not single because no one wants her. She's single because alignment means more than attention. She's been offered dinners, compliments, status, even promises. But she sees through performance. What captures her isn't charm, it's character, not money, but meaning, not status, but substance. Her standards are not a wall, they're a filter. She's not playing hard to get, she's simply hard to distract. Stoic philosophy teaches that desire should be examined, not blindly followed. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." That's her. She doesn't crave what impresses the world. She's not chasing prestige, wealth, or popularity. Her freedom comes from choosing what aligns, not what sparkles. She doesn't need a man to prove himself with grand gestures. She needs him to be grounded, to be consistent, to know who he is without needing to dominate or perform. Most men aren't rejected because they're lacking. Many are rejected because they're performing, and performance breaks the frequency she lives on. She doesn't fall for potential. She watches patterns. She doesn't mistake attention for affection. She listens to how someone makes her feel when no one's watching. That's the difference between being flattered and being fulfilled. And even when she does care, she still doesn't settle, because her life isn't on pause waiting for a relationship. She has purpose. She has peace. She has options. But she's not moved by options. She's moved by truth. This is what disorients many men. They're used to their success being enough. They're used to their image carrying weight. But to her, none of that matters if the energy behind it isn't real. Because she doesn't fall in love with perception. She falls in love with presence, and presence can't be faked. A real-world example? Tracee Ellis Ross, successful, radiant, and outspoken about embracing singlehood, not as lack, but as strength. She's not waiting to be chosen, she's living. And from that fullness, she chooses what and who aligns with her values. That's not loneliness, that's sovereignty. What confuses most men is that she doesn't need to be rescued. She's not auditioning for approval. She's not molding herself to become likable. And because of that, men who are used to admiration feel exposed, because now they're being seen not for what they project, but for who they truly are. This is the quiet strength of the Sigma woman. She has options, yes, but she is the option. And until someone meets her at that level of clarity, she will continue to walk alone. Not because she's hard to get, but because she's easy to lose. And once you lose that kind of woman, you don't just miss her. You question everything that made you think she'd stay. Number 7, she's her own closure. There's a quiet kind of strength in a woman who doesn't need a final conversation to move on, who doesn't beg for explanations, who doesn't demand apologies, who doesn't wait for the door to close softly behind her. The Sigma female is this kind of woman. When something ends, she accepts, she reflects, then she releases. This doesn't mean she's cold. It means she respects her time too much to let someone else decide when her healing begins. She doesn't confuse pain with permission to stay in the past. She knows that peace is found not in answers, but in detachment. She doesn't chase meaning. She creates it from what remains. The Stoics taught that the only thing fully within our control is how we respond. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." She doesn't chase clarity, she becomes it. Not through closure given, but through understanding earned. She will grieve, but she will do it privately, quietly, and with dignity. She will ask herself the hard questions others avoid. Why did I stay? What did I ignore? What can I learn? And from that space, she doesn't just move on, she evolves. She doesn't burn bridges, she simply stops crossing them. No dramatic exits, no final speeches, no pleas for recognition, just silence, distance, and a return to center. Not because she's heartless, but because she knows the difference between emotional expression and emotional leakage. That's what makes her unforgettable. In a world where people are addicted to drama and emotional debt, she closes her own chapters with grace. She doesn't need a witness to validate her pain. She doesn't need a villain to justify her departure. She just needs the truth. And once she finds it, she lets go. And here's what most people never see coming. She forgives, not because they asked, but because she refuses to carry what isn't hers. Her closure is rooted in responsibility, not revenge. Her peace is purchased with self-awareness, not second chances. A real-world example? Viola Davis, known for her emotional depth, both on screen and off, she's spoken openly about healing from trauma, not through confrontation, but through inner work, through therapy, introspection, and reclaiming her narrative. That's the essence of the Sigma female. Healing without spectacle, growth without noise. People who leave her often expect to be chased, but when she doesn't reach back, when she doesn't argue, when she doesn't break, something shifts. They realize the power wasn't in holding on. It was in how effortlessly she let go. She's her own closure, not because she never cared, but because she finally did, about herself. And once a woman learns to close the door with clarity instead of chaos, she never opens it for confusion again. Number 8, mystery is her native language. The Sigma female doesn't overshare. She doesn't explain every move, every emotion, every silence. And in today's world, where people mistake transparency for validation, her restraint is often misunderstood. But that mystery, it's not a strategy, it's who she is. She doesn't hide because she's insecure. She guards because she's self-respecting. She doesn't post her healing, she lives it. She doesn't broadcast every thought. She protects her peace from unnecessary opinions. She isn't afraid of being known. She's just selective about who gets access to her inner world. In the age of oversharing, the ability to withhold becomes sacred, and that's what makes her irresistible. While others use words to be seen, she uses silence to be felt. While others market themselves for likes, she moves in stillness, letting her life speak. Stoicism teaches the value of the inner life over outer performance. Epictetus said, "Keep your philosophy to yourself until your actions demonstrate it." That's her. Her power doesn't need to be announced. It's observed. Her growth doesn't require applause. It shows in her restraint. She knows that silence isn't emptiness. It's containment. And what's contained has power. She doesn't tell everyone what she's working on. She builds in silence. She doesn't chase closure through long explanations. She lets absence do the talking, and that absence is felt, not as rejection, but as a mirror. It shows people how noisy they become in comparison to her calm. Her boundaries are not visible lines. They are the quiet moments where she chooses not to explain herself. This mystery doesn't make her manipulative. It makes her sovereign. She knows that not everything sacred is meant to be shared. Not every insight needs an audience. Some things, especially peace, grow best in silence. Even her joy is private. She doesn't need to prove she's thriving because her fulfillment is internal, and that internal stillness becomes an atmosphere. When she walks into a room, people feel it, not because she demands attention, but because she's mastered the art of withholding it. A real-world example? Sad, the singer known for her timeless voice and enigmatic presence. She rarely gives interviews. She lives away from the spotlight, yet her music, her elegance, her stillness, all continue to captivate decades later. Her mystery isn't manufactured, it's real. It's rooted in self-trust, not image control. And that's what defines the Sigma woman. She doesn't speak to prove she's worthy. She already knows she is. She doesn't reveal everything to feel seen. She's already deeply connected to herself. Her silence isn't a gap. It's a signal, a frequency of self-respect that others either rise to or fall away from. This is what people remember long after she's gone. Not the details of her past, but the peace she carried in the present. Not the stories she told, but the energy she withheld. Her mystery wasn't created, it was chosen. And in a world addicted to noise, her silence becomes a language only the grounded can understand. Number 9, she doesn't flirt, she frequencies. You can't flirt your way into someone's soul. You can only resonate with it. That's the difference between attraction built on tactics and attraction born from energy. The Sigma female doesn't use charm to pull people in. She uses alignment, and it's not something she does consciously. It's who she is. While others rely on compliments, glances, and calculated body language, she doesn't rely on performance. She relies on presence. When she speaks, it's grounded. When she looks at you, it's steady. She's not trying to provoke a reaction. She's simply being herself. And because she's not performing, you can finally relax around her. You feel seen without being scanned. You feel acknowledged without being manipulated. This is frequency. The Stoics would have called it living in accordance with nature. It means showing up as your true self, not who the world told you to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." The Sigma female takes this seriously. She doesn't curate a persona to be liked. She is who she is. Calm, whole, unpressured, and that energy either attracts you or it repels you, but she doesn't contort herself to change the outcome. She isn't trying to be magnetic. She simply is. Because she is not fragmented, she's not a highlight reel, she's a frequency. And in a world where people are trained to chase attention, her ability to stay rooted becomes a rare kind of gravity. What draws people in is not how she flatters, it's how she feels. It's not her seduction, it's her steadiness. In a room full of people trying to be noticed, she's not louder, she's clearer, and clarity always cuts through noise. That clarity becomes a magnet. Consider someone like Zoe Kravitz. Her presence isn't loud or demanding, but it's grounded, confident, unforced. She doesn't try to dominate the space, yet people feel her. That's what happens when someone walks in their natural frequency. They attract without effort because their energy is whole. They don't sell anything. They simply are. And here's what most men never forget. Long after the conversation fades, long after the evening ends, they can't quite explain why she lingers. It wasn't what she said, it was how she was. Steady, open, and whole. Her energy left an imprint deeper than charm ever could. The Sigma woman doesn't flirt for validation. She lives from vibration, and that vibration, once felt, is hard to forget. Because what truly draws people in isn't how much attention you give them. It's how deeply you've made peace with yourself. And in her stillness, in her ease, in her complete lack of trying, she leaves a deeper impression than any clever line ever could. Number 10, she's selective, not scarce. There's a world of difference between playing hard to get and being hard to deserve. The Sigma female doesn't reduce her presence to spark interest. She simply refuses to offer it where it won't be honored. That's not arrogance. That's awareness. She's not scarce because she's broken. She's selective because she's whole. Most people are used to availability being a form of currency. The more present you are, the more valuable you seem. But she's reversed that. Her value doesn't rise with exposure. It rises with alignment. She doesn't withhold to create mystery. She withholds because she has standards. This is deeply Stoic at its core. Epictetus said, "Know what you can control, know what you must reject." She understands this principle. She filters people not with a checklist, but with her energy. If something feels forced, chaotic, unclear, she steps back, not to punish, but to preserve. And the truth is, her selectiveness often intimidates because it reveals the lack of intention in others. People who are used to fast replies and instant affirmation don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't rush to respond, a woman who thinks before she engages, a woman who sees connection as sacred, not casual. She's not keeping score, she's guarding alignment. This kind of discernment is not rooted in ego. It's rooted in emotional economy. She knows what it costs her to give access to the wrong people. And after learning those lessons the hard way, she no longer feels guilty for protecting her energy. Selectiveness is not a defense, it's a declaration. My peace is expensive. That's why her presence feels different. It's not predictable, it's intentional. And when you realize she's not trying to be liked, only trying to stay in integrity, You stop seeing her as aloof. You start seeing her as sovereign. Take Fran Lebowitz. Known for her sharp mind and unapologetic standards, she doesn't pretend to like everyone and doesn't apologize for it either. She doesn't posture or perform. She simply knows herself. And when you know yourself, you don't fear being misunderstood. The Sigma woman is not rare because she's distant. She's rare because she's precise. She doesn't test people. She observes, and if the energy doesn't feel right, she lets it go. With grace, not guilt. To some, this is frustrating, but to those who are ready, it's a relief. Finally, someone who values presence over pretense. Someone who protects her space not from fear, but from clarity. So no, she's not scarce. She's simply not accessible to those who haven't yet become intentional. And when you meet a woman like that, you don't try to win her over. You rise to meet her frequency. And that's the quiet power of the Sigma female. She doesn't chase approval, explain her worth, or beg to be understood. She moves from alignment, not anxiety. In a world that rewards noise, she embodies stillness. And in that stillness, she becomes unforgettable. If this video resonated with you, it's because part of you is already walking that path, or ready to. So take what spoke to you, let it sink in, and keep becoming the kind of person who doesn't just attract love, but commands respect. If you found value here, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay grounded in your truth.